What's up, guys? Tambo here with your Week 6 core report. It's an exciting time to be a Run Pure Sports member as we parlay another big week of winning with the start of the NBA season. Here's a recap of last week. No sports were off limits for winners this past week. Relay 20 hit for $8K on the NASCAR slate. Brad Combe won $5K in an MLB playoff slate. Max Hankins gave a preview of what members can expect, shipping for $21,000 in NBA preseason. Big T had another big week, hitting for over $37,000 in CFB. For the NFL main slate, GK 2400 won over $10K on FanDuel, while our guy Locks shipped an NFL Live final seat. But the biggest wins came on Monday Night Football, when the top of the leaderboard was littered with RPS logos again. JSU led the way with his core plays featuring Captain Austin Eckler and Justin Herbert and Joshua Palmer in the flex. His winning lineup was topped off with Russell Wilson and Dustin Hopkins, as well as low-owned $200 Greg Dulcich, who was talked up big on our free Monday Night Football Showdown show by special guest Chris Rando.
He's fast. He runs like a 4.7 40, and he can actually play the slot. He gives very difficult matchup situations. He's fast. He's got hands. Don't be surprised tonight if maybe he's out there in the mix and, he gets, a few catches and, who knows what happens.
This is your weekly reminder to head on over to our YouTube page and hit subscribe to access all of our great free content. Our guy Johnny AirPods wasn't the only one repping RPS at the top, shipping for over $50K. Matt Attack Lax ran the same lineup twice, shipping for over $95,000. Phil Mike's Bra also shipped for $10,000, while Nuggets hit for $14,000. Now is the time to join us. Head on over to runpuresports.com and sign up for a membership today. Again, all sports are included for one price, and NBA starts this week. You won't want to miss out when our team gets hot during hoop season. Remember, if you're not winning with us, you're watching us win. Till next time, let's keep running pure.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lineup Review Show. I'm your host today, JSU, and we're bringing to you normal as we do. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button at the bottom right-hand corner as we do every single day. We got free shows on this channel all throughout the day, so make sure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel so you get that notification when our shows go live. But let's bring in my two co-hosts. We got Toe Tag and Tambo, my favorite Canadian, and Mr. KFALIK with the Astros shirt on or jersey. I'll go right to you. I mean, you got to be feeling good with your Astros today. The Yankees wanted the smoke, and the Astros gave them the smoke.
Yep. Nice little sweep in a sweep, double sweeps to start off the playoffs. And I'm nervous about this Phillies squad, to be honest. I said that there are only two teams that have the pitching staff that the Astros have, and that's obviously the Mets and the Phillies. Obviously, the Dodgers would fall in that book into there if Bauer was available ever. But yeah, the Phillies and the Mets definitely concern me. All this rest that these Phillies pitchers are going to get is a big win for them. Astros are a leg up because of our depth in the pitching staff. So we lose a little bit of an edge on that when you have 5 days off before the World Series starts. But hey, we take winners. We in Houston with these Astros, it's either World Series or bust for us at this point. So we get to the World Series and we're happy now. And now it's just, let's go and win this thing.
Oh yeah, you're happy now. We got to the World Series. We're happy now. That's a Houston fan right there. That's being an Astros fan.
That's the expectation
fan.
now, JC.
Tambo, they're happy. They're happy.
Yeah,
they made the World Series.
We've made 4 of the last 6 World Series. How do you not expect World Series if that, what would be a good season for you if you've made 4 of the last 6?
I mean, yeah, okay, that's fair. You're right. Your expectations are very high. That's fair. Tambo, let's bring you in here. How was your weekend? Did you have any Astros? Did you bet on the Astros or the Phillies? I mean, how was your baseball weekend?
I didn't play any baseball. No, I've been, it's enough being in these NBA streets. It's hard enough with balancing that with Showdown, with putting up that content and doing it all together. So I'm trying to work that in. Like I said, going a little harder on the NBA streets this season, but having some fun with it. And NFL was awesome to watch yesterday, I thought, but I didn't chase the Burrow scene. I know you guys were all over him, which was great. I didn't go back there. So besides a few lineups, I hand built some that I liked with your guys' cores and things like that, but didn't do anything too special yesterday. I think 200-ish was my best score. You needed like 250. So yeah, nothing going on yesterday. Last night, close call in the showdown streets. I needed Pickens on those last two drives to get like a 30-yard catch or more. Would have got a third King of the Beach seat, but it ended up being Mostert, and I'm happy. All the members won. If I'm not winning, that's what I want to see. There was a huge chop up top. We'll talk a little more on that later on, but there's a lot. Tonight is a game you'll be at, JSU, and then Thursday night, we were talking pre-show, is the big Baltimore Ravens, Tampa Bay Bucks. It's a 33-33 mega, so that should be a fun slate as well, and we'll have more content on that as we get to Thursday night.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to this showdown lineup review part of the show when we actually have to review it, because we do have a special guest coming on this YouTube channel later on today at 3 p.m. Eastern. Mr. Brick is going to be joining the boys, Big T and JT Hayes, to talk some showdown. So a little ironic, we get like the 1,000-man dupe shipper, and Mr. Brick's going to come on and talk some showdown with the boys. So little irony going on there, but I can't wait for that show. Guys, make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Click that red box at the bottom right-hand corner so you get notified when they go live. They're going live at 3 p.m. Eastern today. That's the time. Make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Get that notification. Click the subscribe and the thumbs up as we're on here, and it's free. We'll be talking all throughout the main slate, reviewing that. We'll talk the showdown lineup from last night, and then we're going to talk some showdown for tonight at the end of the show. We're going to give our takes, early takes, obviously, but Tambo said, I'm going to the game tonight, bringing the wife. So it should be a fun time, and I can't wait to talk, I guess, Patriots, Bears. I mean, it'll be fine, I guess. Like, I just hope it's not another snoozer. Like, don't give me the Commanders. First of all, how do the Bears get 2 primetime games? Like, how does the NFL do that to us as fans, Falik?
Sorry, I couldn't get off of mute. Something popped up on my screen. The answer is that the NFL has made a requirement that every team must be on primetime once, and then they also have so many primetime spots, and they're just trying to fill them, and it's not easy every week with all these
So they
buys.
give us the Bears like twice in a row? They were
Yeah,
on
no,
last Thursday,
I
and
hear
they're
you,
on
but you have
Monday?
to look how many teams they're on. Look at all these teams on bye this week. All the good teams are on bye this week, so we just got to make it through this week. We got to suck it up, and we'll be good to go. Hopefully, the rest of the season is my hope.
Can't we just get bad games on Thursday and then put the good games on Monday and Sunday night, NFL?
I'd like for there to be good games on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday personally, because I can always
put it on all of them. Like, what's the problem?
Yeah, I could always.
No, but I'm just saying, if you're going to give me like one, just make it consistent. Like Thursdays when all the bad teams play each other. Like, you know what I mean? Like, give me that at least. I don't know.
I can watch Red Zone all day, but I can't watch terrible teams play football all day. That's the hard part. Red Zone, I can at least see the good stuff. And then Thursday, Sunday, and Monday, watching those bad games makes it very hard for me. It was to be honest, the game last night was not very enjoyable. Again, we had there was at least some thought put into it, and like Mike Tomlin played his style of football and stuff. It caused Miami to do the same, but it was another snoozer in my opinion. I was watching plenty of the Astros game and getting tired watching that too, because they delayed the game by an hour and a half for no reason at all. But yeah.
The good thing though is the showdown sweat definitely helps. Even the snoozers, those games, showdown sweat is real. And I was with Tambo too. I had a ton of pickings on those last 2 drives. If he somehow got in the box again, that would have definitely boosted me up. I ended up breaking even on the showdown. Won a little on the main slate, so that helped. But let's dive into the main slate, and then we'll get into the showdown. Tambo, I'll start with you. You talked about your week a little bit. You said you didn't have as much Burrow. What'd you do with Jacobs? I mean, I was surprised Jacobs made it to 45 to 55% ownership, depending on the contest you played. Even in the $20 Millie, I think he was 46% owned, which was surprising to me. I was all in on him. I pretty much played him on every team. I talked about it. I felt there was only one way to go. You would either almost all in pretty much, or you were going to fade and just take one of those two drastic stands. And we talk about it all the time. Like, I don't play every single piece of chalk. I don't fade every single piece of chalk. I told people on the show I faded CD Lamb. So there are some chalk I choose to fade, and that comes down to just your own view of it. But for me, I just felt Josh Jacobs was overall the best play on the slate, and it was tough for me to fade him. I didn't feel that way about CD. I felt like I was right on those two things, but then I didn't play any Tyler Boyd. I had Deebo Samuel all over the place who didn't get it done. Big Mike kind of got there at the end, but I didn't really love that play either. It just I felt like I hit things, but I didn't get all the way because our strategy was pay up for wide receiver, and a lot of them dudded.
Yeah, with Jacobs, it was pretty obvious. I said on the show yesterday morning, I was heavy on him. 65% is what I went. I sort of thought he'd come in around 40. I never go all in on a guy, injuries, stuff like that. I definitely thought he was the best play on the slate, but that's sort of my max cap. And sometimes I don't even go that high, but in this case, I knew I would need to just based on how he was shaping up around the industry. I did like when Big T came on the wood and said that he thought, like, that made me feel better about 65 when he's like, he actually might come in a little lower than we think just because if people do late swap in the afternoon and situational stuff. So I was like, 65 is a good number. So I was heavy there. My thing was just the quarterbacks did not come through for me. Like, I went back to Herbert, didn't get the action there. Going into the running backs and defense is where I crushed. Defense, I had all kinds. I had like 22% Green Bay. I had like 20% Tennessee, and then I let it trickle down from there with some other good ones that popped up. I said I was going to play a little bit of the Jets because even though the Jets were the super chalk, and I said behind Ripien, he had 3 running backs they could just hand the ball off to. The Jets are just still really good, and there was the chance that they get up and they would have to make it happen. They got an okay score, 7 or something, but wasn't something I was super high on. My other defenses crushed. My running backs were solid, and then really just quarterback is what let me down. So I was trying to find it here to see exactly, but Herbert was by far my highest owned. Dak did not work out. The other thing about the Dak stacks, the Amon-Ra St. Brown injury crushed me. I had 20% of him because I was playing heavy on Dak, so that did not work out. And even with Dak stacks, I avoided Lamb for the most part. I think it's a good talking piece just because it leads into the Burrow conversation. Lamb was obviously super popular on the slate yesterday, so I was liking it with Dak, Gallup, and Schultz. And again, obviously Gallup didn't work out either by any means, but just to shape it up, when you have a popular wide receiver like that, I like to use their 2s and 3s. I know our guy Randone was in the chat yesterday during the morning wood saying Tyler Boyd, and Higgins was really popular. So if you had went Jamar with Chase with Boyd, or Jamar, Boyd, Hurst, or however you wanted to shape it out, then that's so unique already. This is where people get way too into the weeds and get too crazy with it. You didn't need to do too much at that point. You could just plug in Jacobs, Walker, Eckler, like just put the best plays in from that and then go down from there. So I think really that's what it comes down to is if you're already going enough off the board with your stack to like a Tyler Boyd, you don't have to get as aggressive with all these pivots and secondary stacks and all these other things that people are looking at when they're going into it.
Yeah, Dak was another guy I was high on too. I loved Burrow, Dak. Those were 2 of my favorite quarterbacks on the slate. I was very overweight on them. Dak obviously didn't get it done from a fantasy point perspective. Obviously, he didn't look that great either. Let's just be honest. I mean, they won that game, but he did not look great. We'll see, as he goes. It is his first game back off of injury. He hasn't played in a while, so I guess you can excuse, 1 or 2 maybe bad performances, but you would expect him to play a little better against the Lions. Did not happen, so I'll take my own the Dak. But Gallup and all those other guys really not getting there. It was a product of the offense not really that great. I mean, Zeke got the 2 touchdowns, I'm pretty sure. He was fine. Didn't do, he still only had, I think 17 or 18 with that, but he was okay. But everyone else on Dallas, besides the 2 running backs, I thought Tony Pollard looked great. Like usual, Tony Pollard looks like the best running back. Zeke gets the 2 1-yard touchdowns. It's how Dallas rolls. But outside of them, no one else really looked that good. And I'm always partial, Kevin, to fading wide receiver chalk, especially when they're a little more expensive, because it's just harder. They still have to get it done. The quarterback has to get them the ball in space. Running backs for me, and this is just in my head, but running back chalk is sometimes harder for me to fade if I think they're in such a good spot, because they just get the guaranteed ball and belly touches that they can go with in the short yardage stuff. So that's how I think. What do you think about that type of stuff?
Yeah, we've talked about it. The most important thing to me is having a bell cow or bell cow-ish running back. So if it's a cheap running back, I'm not necessarily going to just plug them in unless they're cheap, because they're going to now be the bell cow and be chalk. So what's important to me is if I'm playing the chalk running back, I'm playing only a chalk running back if I know that they're going to get the carries and they're going to get the snaps and touches. So that's more important to me personally. Few thoughts on the slate. First of all, I got absolutely crushed. I was heavy on Cleveland, Baltimore. That game went completely off the rails with Gus Bus getting all the touchdowns and stuff like that. When Mark Andrews getting 0.4 points, that was not expected in any way, shape, or form, I'd say. And on the Dallas Detroit game was my other side that I went with. So obviously CD didn't do his thing and all that. And then injuries were a big story, I think, today, yesterday, especially with some chalk pieces. DK Metcalf got hurt. You had Breece Hall who got hurt. And so I think it's going to impact the rest of the season, obviously, as well as watching out for these injuries. And then lastly, I had Jamal Williams. I thought he was going to be a really good play. I thought if there was going to be a run back that I wanted, a lot of people were on Ross St. Brown, and I personally thought that Jamal Williams was going to be the piece that was going to keep that game close. And he did not do it. He fumbled at the 1 yard line, which was awesome. Really, really fun to watch. But yeah, the other thing I will say that Tambo briefly talked about. So I went to the Titans game yesterday, and I sit in a section that a lot of Colts fans or the visiting fans purchase. It's right behind the visitors bench area, their sideline. So a lot of Colts fans were buying those spots, and you could see towards the end of the game, late in the fourth quarter, there was Nick Foles and Sam Ehlinger standing next to each other, whispering to each other and talking with Matt Ryan on the other side of the field. And all I could think of is, man, Nick Foles and Sam Ehlinger, like, who is this shitty guy that keeps on taking our spot at quarterback, fumbling it, throwing terrible interceptions galore? And these Colt fans want his head, and they want Frank Reich's head at this point. They're just so tired of that team. The offensive line has been completely crushed by these contracts being given out to other players and stuff. So their offensive line is garbage. And I'm just going to keep on attack. There is nothing that's going to get me to play a Colts running back this year, I think, at this point. If you look at how this offensive line is, I don't see how you could play any of them in any situation right now.
Yeah, they're definitely struggling, the Colts, for sure. Falik, though, speaking of, you talked about cheap running backs. Now, could I have interested you in a 4K running back that got 69.5% of the rush snaps while only playing 35% of the actual snaps, though, which to me is actually shocking because I watched that whole game, and Gus Edwards, it just felt like he was on the field more, but maybe it was because out of his 23 snaps, he touched the ball like 17 or 18 times out of his 23 snaps, but that's pretty impressive. I know the Wood Show talked him up, specifically Big T, and I think Crane liked him too. And then on the Up Clock Show, I talked him up. I thought he was a really good play at 4K. I was way overweight on him. That kind of helped my day go a little bit better. And then the Chuba Hubbard, Deonta Foreman kind of like split roll. And then we found out Chuba was running with the ones. But those guys came in low. Like all those running backs came in really low owned, and I thought that was the key of the slate, honestly.
The expected script, I think, is what affected Carolina for sure. The expected script was they were going to be down big and they were going to be passing the ball a lot, which made me interested in their wide receivers. Terrace Marshall Jr. I was very interested in. He was in my core. DJ Moore I liked for FanDuel. He was too cheap on FanDuel, in my opinion. It was a different games did not go as I expected them to go. The one thing I did expect was Josh Jacobs was going to crush. My Houston Texans are not as good as my Houston Astros. So the question is what price tag does Derrick Henry need to be, and what ownership does he need to be to fade him next week? You got Derrick Henry versus the Texans next week.
Well, that just reminded me actually too. He almost broke like 3 touchdowns that he didn't and still got 22 or something. He should have been what I thought he was, the slate breaker. That hurt me. I had all kinds of Derrick Henry and he could have went for a lot more, but either way, by the way, Davis Mills, 4th highest scoring quarterback on the slate and crushed his 5K price tag with 22 DraftKings points. That's pretty solid. So I like that one. That was another one I was on, but I want the explanation. I watched the shows. I watched both of them, but like the thing about Gus the Bus, and I'm a Ravens fan, so I don't get I don't get it. Like, there's no explanation for it besides he has the nickname. I'm playing Gus the Bus. Like we call Lamar RB1. They had Justice Hill. They had Drake. Drake, I know, was chasing from the week before. I didn't like him, but when you've got Lamar, Justice Hill, Drake, you got Mark Andrews, you got guys like this that you can use. Duvernay and Bateman was back. All these things. I just don't understand how Gus was the play.
It's scripted perfectly for him too, and he's still, because like if you look at if I didn't expect I thought Cleveland was going to take an early lead personally on the game to make Lamar pass it more, and Lamar passed it 16 times. They ran it, 42 times? Is that what the number? 44 times. I just do not I don't even. I could not play Gus Edwards no matter what you.
Yeah. I guess that was the only fair explanation that someone gave. Might have been Big T. Someone mentioned like maybe it was Crane saying goes by what they pay them. So Nades is bringing that up because he remembers they said that, but they paid him $9 million, so it's got to be Gus week. Like no, they have 7. There's 7 options on that team.
All of a sudden they activate him. JK down. They activate him. They played this dude when JK was healthy before, and they almost like split snaps too. They obviously like him.
Yeah.
He's a runner. And if you watch the Cleveland game, the effect of Lamar running, those type of RPO, that the option for him to run, the Browns just were struggling to stop it. Like that touchdown run, it was the threat of Lamar that opened that whole gap for him to just run right through for an easy touchdown. And that's the thing with the running backs for the Ravens. You need a script. KFALik talked about it. But when a dude's 4K and you think he's the best, most talented player on that unit and they like him the most, and in your head, that's what you're thinking, you just go with that take. It could be wrong,
I will say this
but
too.
It was a take that I know Tony put out there saying like, hey, I'll put my money where my mouth is. This is what I think. I felt very similarly to what he was saying because I'm like, they don't like Kenyon Drake. They don't like Justice Hill. Justice Hill's been there forever. They don't like Justice Hill. He's had opportunities. Like, no, if they're running the football and they're ahead, that's Gus Edwards time. That's when Gus Edwards is playing. And you saw it. He got the first game back, got 69% of the rush snaps. That's a big amount of snaps.
I didn't see the breakdown, but in front of me, like I got it. Like Kenyon Drake got 11 carries, Gus got 16, Justice Hill got 5, Lamar got 10. Like that's what I'm saying. The touchdown upside. I agree with you, JSU, and I agreed with what I get it, but I'm saying I liked him more for at least the thought process it gave me, and it was my best FanDuel lineup, was use him on FanDuel because they're going to jam him for the touchdowns. That's the whole point of Gus the Bus. Like at least if he gets to the in range, just pound that shit in. That's what they're going to do. He is good at that. They like him. They paid him, like people said. There was just too many options. Again, on DraftKings, he wasn't near needed. Like if you look at all the optimals, the winning lineups, all you could just play the chalk. Eckler, Walker,
that's because the wide receivers didn't smash. Like
I know
those stud wide receivers. That's why it wasn't the optimal.
But I think that's a big conversation that needs to be had on this slate is there was a complete change in what is considered a stud wide receiver for this slate. Like everybody just kept the name stud wide receiver when they're really like stud wide receiver last week compared to this week was a completely different conversation. Like you went from, like, I know AJ Brown wasn't on the slate, or wasn't on the slate last week, but like you went from Stephon Diggs, you went from Gabe Davis, you went from Cooper Kupp, you went from Justin Jefferson, and then you can consider AJ Brown. You went from those guys which I would say, what did I name, 6 or 5 wide receivers? I
Five
can't
or
remember.
six,
I'd say they're 5 or 6 of the top 15 wide receivers, 4 of the top 7 in the league, and you're left with the guys. And you even didn't have Tyreek or Jalen Waddle on the slate either. You didn't have Hopkins wasn't on the slate. Like you have all these guys that will be considered stud wide receivers, and I think that it's a viable point to try to jam stud wide receivers. But like, stud wide receiver is not CeeDee Lamb right now in their offense. Stud wide receiver is, I know that people love Amon-Ra St. Brown, but like, he is not in my book a stud wide receiver yet in how the offense runs. Stud wide receiver is a completely different topic for me on these type of slates. Like, I thought that the best wide receiver on the slate was Chris Godwin. Like, when you looked at his price and considered his volume, obviously he has a terrible quarterback.
Why is he a stud wide receiver and Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't? I can make the case right now.
Not saying
Amon-Ra
that
St. Brown is a way better fantasy producer. He has a way higher ceiling.
Jamar Chase
he's the number 1 to Godwin's the number 2 on the team. He's actually the number 3 because Lenny is the number 1 or 2 probably. But in
my book, the only stud wide receiver on the slate that I would consider to be a really good wide receiver is Jamar Chase. That was the only guy that, and I didn't want him this, like, the challenge with Jamar Chase is for this game, I thought was going to be script. First of all, I thought they would be able to run the ball a lot because I thought they were going to crush this Falcons team, and they should have. And number 2, is he has other that Joe Burrow has other mouths to feed, unlike the other teams. Like that, I don't think, that's what I'm saying, is I don't think any of these guys were stud wide receivers. I didn't think you needed to pay up for wide receiver this week. That's a
fair point too. But again, to slate by slate, I get what they were saying. Sure. Like I agree that these guys are not stud wide receivers, but on this slate, Amon-Ra was a stud to me. He's back. His numbers show, like JSU said, you can see the stats. It was in my thread like a week ago or the week before he got injured that he had stats similar to Cooper Kupp over a lot of games, like since week 13 of last season, where he's been going off and his stats are up there. But
stud fantasy wide receiver.
They just won't price him up based on the name value.
He got a concussion or whatever. Like,
yeah,
no, I understand. Got hurt.
Yeah, he got hurt yesterday too. The other thing, Devontae Adams was a stud, but he's not going to come through when you don't need him when everyone has Jacobs, and Jacobs does what he does. And that's why Jacobs was almost 100% owned because, or should have been, because that's what you did. So, but yeah, and when you look at the optimals and stuff, that's results oriented that the cheap guys got there. I'm just saying it was. JSU, you were talking. I listened to, what show were you on that I listened to this, man, I forget now, but you did a show last week where you even said, you were like, it's pretty straightforward for me at running back. I think you hopped on the First Look show with AP and Locks.
Yeah.
And you said it's pretty straightforward for me. You said, I like both running backs, Eckler and Walker in that game. And I don't know how you don't play Jacobs on this site. I think that's almost verbatim to what you said. They're in the optimal. They're in the winning lineup. That was the 3 running backs. So yeah, you had to find other ways around it. But like, if you look at some of the lineups that were built, we'll get to the Millie Maker winner. The optimal is a little bit crazier, but I guess the point would be that's where I had an extra hard time with it. But everyone has their own strategy and it still paid off. Like, I know there were still good lineups out there. Just Amon got injured. My best FanDuel lineup, I always try and do this. And BigT, I was getting on him in the chat yesterday. People are like, oh, you're getting on BigT. I'm like, no, I know what to do. Get him fired up so he puts the perfect core out, and then you take it and ship with it. And that's what gets the fun going. On FanDuel, my best lineup was with Hubbard and Guz. I just used what he was saying, and then I put Amon-Ra in there, and Amon-Ra busted me, or I could have had a shot at a live final seat over there. So it was a great call. I just meant I liked him a lot more on FanDuel than I did on DraftKings, just because I thought the opportunity of like a guy, they were making fun of it. I know he costs more, but Zeke was 2,000 more. I thought he had a way bigger chance to jam 2 or 3 touchdowns. In the end, they both, I think, jammed 2 touchdowns. And that was great because Gus was 2,000 cheaper. So it hit. But I'm just saying, I like the running backs you said more. And then I had some other guys like Breece Hall, Mixon, high on Derrick Henry. I was jamming some of that stuff and being able to fit some of these other wide receivers. They just didn't come through for me. Like I said, Davis Mills got there, but Brandon Cooks did not. Nico Collins really didn't do anything special. It was Dorsett and I think Brevin Jordan or something like that you needed. So just way off the board when it came to that stuff.
So I got a question for you now, though. So obviously we know everything now, but like now you would say Zeke was a way worse play than Gus Edwards, right?
He is, on facts, he is, because point per dollar.
That's my point, though. Obviously, now, I'm not saying
yesterday, though. I'm saying
yesterday, you forget about the touchdowns from both guys. You saw the work both guys got. Who was the better play?
Gus was the better play.
Now we know that. My point, though, is like, okay, so like Zeke, to me, in my head, I was like, Gus Edwards is Zeke, but better, more talented, and he's $2K cheaper. That's literally the way I thought of it. I literally thought of it that way. It's like he's a little more talented. He's younger. He's got a little more explosiveness than Zeke, because literally everyone in the league has more explosiveness than Zeke now. And he can do the exact same thing with Lamar at quarterback, where the threat of Lamar running is what defenses all are focusing on, because they don't want to get the ESPN highlight reel of Lamar just juking them out of all over the place. So they're all trying to stuff him. And that's where the running back kind of opens up for the Ravens. But I mean, outside of that, you talked about the running back. Sometimes when you go early in a week, it's honestly easier for you to just say things like that. Like when I got on that show, I had nothing in front of me. I pulled up just who was facing who. I couldn't even see like DK pricing, anything. And sometimes you got to remember the early takes that you have. Those were three of my highest exposed running backs, but still, like, I did say that. Now that you say it, I do remember saying it. And it's like, sometimes I just got to remember to go with some of those early takes that you kind of forget going into this slate when it's Sunday.
Yeah, my thing was just back to finalize it out, was that, like you said, that's what you see now. And that's the difference. And that's what's good. Like, you had it pegged. You saw it. Big T saw it. Crane saw it that way. Our guy Locks said, like, Gus is Zeke for $2,000 cheaper. I saw it the complete opposite way. Like, I would definitely find $2,000, because there was plenty of plays, like we said, where you could find $2,000. I know it sounds crazy, but there, when you, like what Falik was saying, when you had those receivers that were the thought to be best receiver, like I thought Gallup was a better play than Lamb. He was to me, he's on the same offense. Dak likes him. He's $1,700 cheaper. And I know that doesn't work because I'm comparing Dallas Cowboys to Dallas Cowboys, but I just meant there was places to find $1,700 or $2,000 in this case to make it up. And I liked that Zeke's matchup was strong, maybe because Dak was coming back, a good leverage position based on CeeDee Lamb being popular. Like, maybe I could jam him and just get those 2 touchdowns and 50, 60 yards. That's the other side of it, right? So, like, again, that's just how I'm looking at it versus how you guys were. In the end, it was right, and your play was better. But every slate, everyone has to think like this, and we all put our own thoughts and process out there. So that's kind of the fun in it, right? You get to sort of take the puzzle, as I always say, and put it together how you think it makes the most sense. None of us have the answer sheet. Today, the answer sheet is out, and we're reviewing it, but it's who can put the puzzle together the fastest with no answer sheet.
Yeah, we don't have a crystal ball, right? Like, It's not like we're like, oh, we know exactly what's going to. I'm not saying we knew exactly what's going to. It was just what I thought was the most likely scenario for me personally. Some people probably had different takes. I don't think everyone thought that way. And that goes with all the things, all those takes, the Chuba Deonta situation. Are they going to split? Is Chuba the guy or whatever? So you got to kind of take those takes. I forgot the other guy I was massively exposed to that got injured was DK Metcalf. Yeah, that was another reason why my teams didn't go nuts. It's not only that I had so much Debo, I had a ton of DK Metcalf. He was one of my highest owned receivers. Obviously, unfortunate injuries. I mean, Breece Hall got injured. I didn't have as much Breece at the end of the day. He got injured, though, like, unfortunately, had that big run. And then after that, was it a season-ending knee injury?
Yeah, it's going to be. They're saying it's going to be season-ending. It's not official yet, but they're saying that it's not going to be good. Let me throw out one more thing, one more quick thought, and then we'll jump into the Millie Maker lineup. I think tight end is going to be a very interesting position rest of season because I think that the DK specifically has got some weird pricing on these, like what you'd call mid-tier, which is I guess the mid-3s to the mid-4s. Are guys that are getting a lot of targets and a lot of usage on their teams, like Njoku and Dalton Schultz looked pretty good yesterday. Like Hayden Hurst, all these guys are just like kind of stuck in this land, and Gerald Everett and like Tyler Higbee's been around there. Like all these guys are getting some really solid usage on their teams. And then people want to throw out the big guys of The two big guys, George Kittle, I guess you can kind of call a big guy at this point still. And then you got these cheapies that jump up every single slate, and it's a very interesting situation of what do you do with the tight end position, because it's going to keep on changing from week to week. And I don't think there's one guy that is right or wrong at this point this season. So it's almost, but what ends up happening is that the tight end position does give an opportunity to really get an edge. If you get that right guy who gets the 2 touchdowns, it's a huge edge at the tight end position. So I even left out Hawkinson, but like all these guys are getting some really good target shares and good usage on their teams.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get that lineup up though, Simon, from the Millie Maker, because I want to get to that so we can get into the showdown talk. While he's doing that, guys, just another reminder, since we got over 200 watching now, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button if you like the show, you appreciate us getting on. Free show, obviously, and we got more free shows throughout the day, so you're going to want to hit that subscribe button, the red box at the bottom right hand corner, so you get subscribed when these guys go live later. Big T, JT Hayes, and a special guest, Mr. Brick, one of the best DFS players in the business, will be on this YouTube channel later with the boys, breaking down tonight's showdown slate, Patriots versus Bears. We're going to get into that slate in a little bit, but let's just quickly review this lineup. We'll get into last night's lineup quickly. There'll be simple reviews, and then we'll get into the Patriots-Bears talk. But we got the lineup now up from last night. The Millie winner for the main slate, it's pretty much probably what you guys would have thought. You got Joey B. The one weird thing about this team that I'm stunned at, there was no Tyler Boyd, which I thought was like a given to be on the winner, like with Burrow stacks. Like I just thought that would be the automatic winner. But the way the lineup shook out, you can kind of see how he doesn't make it. It's Burrow, Eckler, Walker, Hardman, Chase, Paris Campbell, who scored 23, Hayden Hurst, Josh Jacobs, and the Jets D. Overall, the lineup, he had a Joe Burrow double stack with Hayden and Chase, which was great. If you played that, you were very happy with your quarterback and your stack combo. He didn't run it back with Atlanta, which was probably a good idea because all their guys that scored or whatever were pretty much guys you weren't playing, or most people weren't playing. I think Demir Bird caught a touchdown, something like that. So that was good. And then he had the Hardman, who was just went completely off. I think he had 3 touchdowns because 2 were rushing, I think 1 receiving, something like that. And then Campbell, which I would have never played Paris Campbell, but hell of a play by him. I mean, 2% owned, cheap. I didn't really like the spend down options at wide receiver, though. Honestly, I only have like 1 in my pool. I struggled to find a lot of cheap wide receivers, but this guy got there with the Chase, 2 cheap receivers, and the 3 mid-tier to stud running backs, which was obviously the nut build. Tambo, take it away, man.
Yeah, solid. I just looked it up. I was trying to find it, but it looks like Hardman and Hurst for Boyd and Dulcich scores more and still gives them the triple stack with no run back, with a popular cheap tight end. Clearly not afraid to play chalk here. Like if you look at it, and again, like this is what I was trying to say yesterday. This isn't nearly what I thought would happen. I thought it would be more of a cash game line yesterday that won, but it was definitely still some good balance of chalk and going off the board. So when you look at it like Jacobs, Eckler, Walker, I'm pretty sure I made a rule in MME yesterday not to play those 3 together in the same lineup, just because, again, it was just so much. I knew it was like 40 at least for Jacobs. I was expecting 30-ish for Walker, and I actually thought a little more for Eckler, but I just do that because I'm willing to take the chances, and then you're going to get different at wide receiver. I eat the chalk at running back. I just might not play it all together. So with him doing that, though, it was clearly okay. And then he even played the Jets D, which is insane, 43%. It wasn't insane that it's, that number. I didn't expect it to get over the Cincinnati Bengals line that we had that one week. I thought it would be a little less than that, but 43% is a crazy number for that to come in at, but it still worked fine. And the spot was great. We talked about it yesterday. There was pros and cons, but I actually thought it was, one that you could still play no problem versus just Xing it. And I know others have different opinions on that, but my thing was that if they did get down to be as they were to be expected, he may have to throw, and the Jets D is just that good. We actually had a good D that you're paying down for. My worry was if they're handing it off to Gordon, Murray, Boone, who I think ended up getting hurt, but like they had options where they could just get it out of his hands. It's not like Ripien is a guy they want to see something from, and we want those opportunities. So either way, solid triple stack, couple plays off the board, jam the rest of the chalk. It just goes to show what we talked about earlier. The other thing I will say, just to frame it back up from a previous conversation on the Gus thing, or just using cheap running backs to get in the bigger wide receivers, when you see this lineup with Hardman and Paris Campbell, and you see the optimal with Hardman, but also Marquise Goodwin, which no one's getting to that. But I'm just saying, when you see that, that is the other true argument for why you take a guy like Gus Edwards and risk it, or a Chuba Hubbard or Foreman, and to make it work. Because on yesterday's slate, to Falik's point, when you don't feel like they're all studs, the one thing you at least hope for, it doesn't mean it works out, but you should know, is that at least from a usage perspective, floor ceiling combination, at least you can get some good dudes in there. And those guys allowed you to get some secondary stacks like a Lamb, a Mon-Ra, with a Chase, with a Burrow, with a Hurst, to make it. I'm not saying this exact lineup, but to give you an idea, and still fit Jacobs, Walker, the cheap guy instead of Eckler. And while he didn't get to Eckler's number, it's just as good, if not better, point per dollar. So that's kind of the point I see 100% where it's worth taking on that risk. Again, you need Lamb and Amon-Ra to come through, but you would expect them to do a lot better, and you would expect Amon-Ra, or you would hope that he doesn't get injured. That's quite unfortunate. But the point would be that. And the last thing we didn't talk about, JSU, that ties to this lineup too, is I don't think you can play Patrick Mahomes anymore. We talked a little bit about it on the Off the Chalk show yesterday. Like, even if you had to get to him and Kelsey lineups, the optimizers didn't like it because it forced so many punts. If you wanted Debo in there on the other side, even more punts. But I'll tell you this, it's become very true. So we can trust Mahomes on his word. He told us at the start of the season, I'm sorry, fantasy people, it's going to be roulette every week with my guys. I'm hooking up everybody. And you could say that it wasn't that crazy with Juju and Hardman, but I highly doubt as many people that were stacking it were going that route. And you could say what you want. Like, obviously, if you have a good share, 20% of your lineups to be Mahomes lineups, you could see why Hardman and Juju might get into some of those, of course. But what I'm saying is I think you have to waste too many lineups on it. So if you're going to commit to going and saying, I think Mahomes is going to blow up on this slate and crush, you need to commit a much higher percentage of your lineups to it to be able to get this variation, because most of those lineups were going to have Kelsey in it and just hope that he did his job. And then you'd fit in like a Hardman or Juju in that mix. It just ties because he had Hardman in his lineup, but you had to guess that right for sure.
Yeah. And you know, I think we've thought this for a few weeks now. You've seen it. Like, it's just not going to be the same guy. There's a lot of guys. They've got younger dudes. They're going to still keep working in.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be the same dude every week. One thing I want to hit, though, in the chat, because I do think this is maybe a little bit of a misconception when you see a team like this. One, I would assume this guy put in multiple entries, Campbell. I don't know if he won 50. I don't know if you can see.
I'm on it. I'll find it while you keep talking through it.
So I'm assuming this guy put in more than one or two entries. I'm assuming he put in 20 or 50 or 150. But there was a question in here, and I'll bring it to you, Falik, but it says, what signs were there out there that playing Hardman and Campbell in the same lineup at all were a smart or good play, ? And I think you're looking at it wrong. The way I look at this lineup is the guy clearly liked the chalk running backs. He clearly probably had a massive high percentage of these chalk running backs. Now, if you're playing all three of these dudes, it's expensive. Then you're playing Burrow. So then if you're playing Burrow, you have to assume most people were playing him with T or Jamar, which both those guys cost. So if you were playing him with Jamar, even if you spent down at defense and tight end, which he did do with these three running backs, it still put him in an area where he had very little money to spend for the last two wide receiver spots. So in his 150 builds, I don't know how many cheap receivers he had, but I would bet he had a good bit of different cheap receivers with different combinations, and these two kind of hit. But Tambo, take it away. Maybe it was a hand built.
Well, just real quick, 5 lineups, but
oh wow, so maybe it was a hand built.
This is the interesting part: is Paris Campbell was in 3 of the 5, so something they liked about Paris Campbell. Juju was actually in 3 out of 5. So that's kind of the point. At least it seems like there was some thought process to it. We're like, all right, if I can't fit Juju, I'm just going to drop down in this one to Hardman and get around it. Had Jacobs in all of them, Eckler in 3 of them, Jets in 4 of them, had Burrow in 2 of them. So got that right. And then, the Hardman was a one-off. Some of the other guys were all
Kenneth
one-offs.
Walker?
Kenneth Walker was in 2 of them.
Okay.
But heavily focused. Like if you look, it was on these 2 spots. Debo was in there. Ayuk was in there 1. Like it was mixing around that San Francisco game with Kansas City and then picking some other spots along the way, but heaviest on those 3 running backs. And I don't know if you saw the optimal, just to tie this in right quick, JSU, but this was really interesting to me because he was close to the optimal. The optimal was 277, but it was Burrow, Boyd, and that's it. But the same 3 running backs. So it was basically you put those 3. The thing though about the optimal was it was Boyd when everyone was on Higgins. It's so random. Again, no one's getting this probably, but Marquise Goodwin when everyone was on one of DK Metcalf because Lockett had the Q tag, but Lockett was still projecting very well. So some people ate it up anyway and said, I'll take it. So there was that. Mecole Hardman with George Kittle was what rounded it out with the most expensive defense in the Cowboys. So it's like not that far off. If you just said, I'm going to Burrow with somebody, I'm going with those 3 running backs, and then what else fits? If you wanted to look for more secondary correlation, you could. But this guy obviously wanted to have Campbell in there, 3 out of 6 lineups. So something about that stuck. I don't think I'm just looking.
Maybe you wanted to just attack Tennessee. I mean, I don't know. You can attack them through the air. Maybe that's just what fit, and he wants. Well, who knows? I'll
tell you one more thing is that he did play Derrick Henry, which I'm just thinking my process and trying to tie it through is I'm assuming I know Derrick Henry was 8,200, so maybe I can look up his other lineups. So maybe he had Derrick Henry as a secondary stack with Campbell. And then decided I'll just use that $100 to go up to Eckler in another one and just use the chalk and eat it because I'm already different enough. But if it was a secondary stack, this lineup would have looked like Burrow, Chase, Hurst. You've got your secondary stack with Henry and with Paris Campbell. You fill in the chalk running backs and the chalk defense. That lands me on Hardman. I'm already all over Juju. Why not play the other guy in the same spot? Like that to me, that's how I would think it could make sense, but I don't know if that's
true. It seems like he keyed in on a few games, like the same few games though. Either way, whether it was Juju, McCall, Paris Campbell, Derrick Henry, it seems like he had a good idea of where he wanted to target. Falik, I'll just throw it to you here. I mean, any thoughts other than what we already talked about on this lineup?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is number 1, obviously touchdowns do matter, but there's also a lot of usage in this lineup when you look at it. Like there's Paris Campbell 10 receptions, there's Eckler 12 receptions, there's Chase getting 8, there's Hurst getting 6. But if you I pulled up the numbers, longest run for Jacobs yesterday 15, longest run for Eckler 13, longest reception 23, Hurst 14, Campbell 11, Hardman 18. There weren't any obviously there was with Kenneth Walker, and Jamar Chase had a few big catches, but overall, it was not necessarily you needed the guy that got the bombs or anything like that. God, Holden is really active today in our chat. But it feels like it was a lot of usage that he was able to grab as well. Paris Campbell may have been a chase from last week, is the only thing I can think of, is that Matt Ryan threw the ball 9,000 times. Paris Campbell got 13 targets today. And I think at this point, Matt Ryan is the new noodle arm-ish kind of guy, can't throw deep passes anymore. And so that kind of removes Pittman a little bit from being able to get the bombs, but maybe you have Paris Campbell who's able to use his height to be the five and out kind of guy. And that's the role he's kind of playing at this point. So this is the only thing I can think of. Hardman, listen, I don't think I could have ever gotten to Hardman personally, number 1, because of what you said about Mahomes, but also because exactly at that price or $100 more is Zacchaeus, who would have been the run back for Atlanta as well. Obviously, numbers don't show you should have played Zacchaeus yesterday, but I would have probably played Zacchaeus as a run back potentially in that spot.
I definitely didn't mind though. It was brought up in the chat earlier, so just a last point on it for me at least is that I didn't run back my Burrow lineups that I ran out there. Like I told you, there wasn't many of them, but I didn't run them back because Drake London and Kyle Pitts, much as we make fun of it on the shows and stuff like that, it just, to me, there wasn't enough volume, even if they were down in the game. It just didn't seem like that was the case. You did not have to run it back. So
Absolutely.
I don't hate that.
No, I don't either. I'm just saying I probably would not
played
have
damn
ended up.
Drake London. I played.
He was the only guy, if you were going to, that you could see get the volume, in
For
my
sure.
opinion. But you didn't have to, and he was still. What did he cost yesterday? 6,100. It was a fair price, but it wasn't like a value.
5,400.
54. That's what it was. Yeah, so it was good. Nothing wrong
And
with
Kyle Pitts, we just might have to accept that Kyle Pitts he may not be it, or the offense just isn't it for him. It's one or the other, but
something taking longer to blossom than what it would expect for the pros. But
let's move though. Let's just throw that showdown lineup up, Simon, when you get a second. I'll read it off from last night, and then we'll give some takes on tonight's game. But last night's showdown, obviously a massive duped winner here. Tambo, what were the numbers exactly on the dupe? Was it over? How many were there?
1,177, and I believe it was at least 2 lineups, because it ended up being the something tied, like the kicker and the D or something ended up both getting 12. So it brought, same what happened to you last week at a smaller number. Yesterday had a huge number, but it brought 2 dupe trains together.
It was the kicker. It was the Miami kicker and the Miami defense. They got the exact same. Okay. So, that's, Mostert captain, Tyreek Hill, Tua Tua was bad too. By the way, Tua should have had like 4 picks in this game. Like,
should have had a third too, but he needs to chill out.
Pittsburgh. We won't even get to that point, but he needs to learn how to slide. But Pittsburgh dropped 4 picks. Like,
Tua was terrible. I don't care what
4 bad picks.
I was full fade Tua train, and I can't I just cannot believe what I saw out of Tua. Like, he looked bad. He looked real bad.
Yeah, he was bad. Tyreek was the same as Derrick Henry, by the way. If you watch that game, I painfully did. Like I said, it's good when you got money on the line in Showdown, but there was 2 different instances where Tyreek was gone and said himself, like, this close, told the DB, like, I was on you and I was gone, and he was going to break the slate. I hate that he was 85%. There can be something to be said for that, but it doesn't really matter either way at that point. But the point being, he killed some momentum as well. He was definitely had his chances. It just didn't come through.
I will say too, shout out to my guy in our Discord, Bring the Noise. He had 2 lineups. He had both lineups.
He had the double chop
that you were talking about. He sent them to me. He has the Sanders lineup with Mostert captain, and he had the Dolphins D lineup. So he shipped. Shout out to him. He played $66 on last night's showdown slate. Entered $66 into this Sunday night showdown. So what's that, like 6 lineups, right? And won almost $1,800.
Got to get him in the core report, Simon. That's the real shipper. When you do it when you chop it like this, but you only played that little amount of money and found both of the winners with it, that's a core report worthy screenshots. I love that call for sure. That was a great win by Bring the Noise.
Yeah, Bring the Noise. Make sure you post that, and the members never win.
He posted it
in
for
the
sure.
Discord.
We'll give him
post it in there for sure. I can send it to Tambo or Simon though too, because he DM'd me the screenshots.
He posted it. So members never win in our Discord. I seen it.
Beautiful.
I think that
all right. So
one thing to add with this is just real quick is, like, we're talking about trade pieces before the show. Deontay Johnson might be a really nice trade piece when you look at this. He's under control for quite a bit, and salary isn't that much. 8 million and 7 million team options for the next 2 years. Only 28 years old. Like, if you don't think, as a Pittsburgh fan, if you don't think that he's like the future, which I think that Freiermuth is a really good tight end, and I think that Pickens looks loved Pickens. Yeah. I've loved Pickens for a while. Like, when he was at Georgia, I thought he just had the body and the talent. They just didn't need him because they have 18 running backs that can crush anyways. He's a good trade piece when you think about it, and could get some good value out of him for a low salary cap piece. Which
I don't hate that.
But if you think Pittsburgh's gonna shut it down to an extent, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't mind
he could definitely. I could see him as someone going to a contender if they wanted to do something like that. I will say Pittsburgh, they're not a good team, but Tomlin does put them in position, it feels like, even in games where they shouldn't be, to at least have a chance. Like, he's doing a very good job with that team, even though they lose their best player overall in TJ Watt, like right in the beginning. Obviously, they switched quarterbacks. Trubisky couldn't get him through at least a few weeks. He struggled. They go to Kenny Pickett. I think Pickett's going to be good. I think he's looked good to me. I think he's going to end up being very good as an NFL quarterback. But let's go to tonight's slate because I want to get some thoughts on the Showdown slate tonight. Guys, don't forget, hit that thumbs up, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. We got Brick, Big T, JT Hayes coming on this channel later to talk some Showdown, 3 p.m. Eastern time. Get notified. Hit the subscribe button, the red box. Click it, get subscribed, and you get notified every time a free show goes live. And we got free shows all throughout the day, including today, 3 p.m. Eastern. Special guest Brick with our boy Big T and JT Hayes talking Showdown. Let's pull this slate up, though, boys. Kevin, let's start with you here. Just general overall thoughts on the game, Bears versus Patriots.
Well, let's start off and say I hope DK does not crash again tonight. That was a nightmare to say the least for me. I was about to throw things against walls, and I usually don't do that, but it was getting close. I had the two boys in the other room screaming at me. My wife's sick in bed, and I was throwing things at my computer because I couldn't get anything to save. So we're going to hope that it doesn't happen tonight. I'm going to just trust DK that they got their shit together today. Listen, I continue to say, I think the interesting piece that you have to consider throughout all of these type of showdowns is there's a lot of value when a quarterback can run the ball. Question is the offense going to be efficient? Don't know, but Justin Fields being able to be a running back / quarterback type of situation is valuable to me. So it's going to be interesting to see what Mr. Belichick decides to do today and who he's going to cut off in the offense. It could be if they try to cut off and do some scheming around not allowing Justin Fields to run the ball. You can see David Montgomery going off, or even Cole Kmet. Like if we think that they're going to cut off the ability for Justin Fields to run, and they're going to what's the word I'm blanking on? They're going to have somebody watching him every play and following him.
That's what they were doing.
Yeah,
Kenny
thank you.
Pickett too. Kenny Pickett was getting that treatment yesterday. He was struggling with it a little bit, but
if someone spies, I'm sorry for not having that word for some reason. If someone's spying on Fields, what that means is that the middle of the field is going to be wide open. If he's able to get out of the pocket, they're going to be chasing him, and then a guy like Cole Kmet could be wide open in the middle of the field, just waiting for passes and getting the volume there. So you may see some Cole Kmet in my world again. Why not? Got to go back to him on every single showdown slate there is. And on the New England side, it's going to be challenging because they got so many pieces that they can throw to. They got two running backs that will get a lot of usage, and so it's going to be a tough one to nail down, which is always in those type of situations. A lot of people are going to think New England's the play, and I'm going to say, okay, you can play some New England. I'm going to probably play more Chicago because I want to focus in on the offense that does not have as many usage monsters. So I'll see some more Chicago on my end probably.
Yeah, so a couple things, Tambo. One, from the Patriots side, I don't think we know confirmed for sure, but it looks like Mac Jones could start here. That's what it seems. He's been taking first team reps, I'm pretty sure. It looks like he's going to be the quarterback. I don't know if that's official yet. And then the Patriots, they have a few receivers that are questionable. I think Kendrick Bourne is questionable.
12 guys questionable, as we discussed.
Nelson Aguilar is questionable for today's game. That's just two receivers off the top of my head that I know for a fact are questionable for them. And then we saw the young kid, Tyquan Thornton, who I loved, and I loved in preseason. He just looked like he was already one of the Patriots' most talented receivers already in preseason. And I think he is. I think he is one of the two most talented receivers already in that on that team. And he could be boosted into a big role. We saw him score 1 or 2 touchdowns last week. And then they obviously got the two running backs back. Damian Harris looks like he's going to play. So what are we doing here, with this game, overall thoughts, and then take it to the Patriots side maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I think what I'm doing is luckily I'm signed up at Run Pure Sports already. So I'm going to be looking at a couple things tonight. JSU is going to the game. So I know he's going to put some extra effort into this one to make sure he's got the winner while he's there. And the second point is, before I get to my actual stuff, jokes aside, but Falik, I think you got it figured out already. I can see it up in your head. And I remember a slate recently that we had with, I think it was with Russell Wilson. You and I ended up, similar. I loved your train of thought in the 3-max plan. And I feel like it's this one again, because I think New England's going to smash. I think it's this. I think New England smashes, or it's like we're looking at a late cover, almost like last night. I thought Miami was going to smash, or we get the late cover, which we got. And maybe they could have won. I see this being almost identical. It doesn't mean you have to play it identical, though, because it's different setups, to Falik's point. On the Chicago side, very condensed offense. On the New England side, not only do we have all these injuries that we're going to have to wait to shake out, even if you know who's playing and figure it out, it's hard to figure it out, almost like my Mahomes point I made earlier, where you're going to have to use a lot of lineups. If you're, for example, Mac Jones captain, if you want to pair him up with two guys, I will say, first of all, I don't think you have to. But second of all, if you are going to, you're going to have to bury a lot of lineups, siphoning through who those two end up being. And if you're going like 4 2s and 5 1s, then I think it ends up very similar builds like last night. So I could see another big chop for that instance, because if it ends up being the guys you think it is, Mac Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Jacoby Myers, Fields on the other side, like you're going to do all this, you're going to end up very similar. Get a kicker in there and call it a day. So you'll have to look to get a little bit different, but I do think the game ends up Patriots smash or a close cover at the end with a lower scoring game, because the Patriots just don't show up and do enough. And we get a lot of clock running, a lot of running in general and back and forth. So I'll look at some builds like that as well. And I don't think it's going to be, a 9-3 type of game, but I definitely could see it be ugly for sure. Sorry for you, JSU, because you're in attendance, but you get one of those defensive battles. Maybe you never know. Maybe it goes back and forth a little. So could go either way.
Two things I'll add, and then I'll be done with this. Is number one, JSU, I sure hope that you're going to be at the game early, so you can go and scope out the New England situation, whether who's running with the first.
I'll bring my binoculars.
Yeah, you may be able to be on the ground at that point if you're 2 hours early. You may be able to go down to the field area and really
I'll
see.
Be there early.
Who's going to be running well, who's running with the first team, who's jogging on the practice squad groups. I need all that information, boots on the ground. We got to use you as much as we can. The other thing that I want to point out is it may be stupid storyline, but Amir Smith-Marseille got some good snap usage from Chicago last game, and they chose not to elevate him to the active roster. So he is no longer on the team. I was just looking for him because I was like, oh, he got 14. He ran 14 routes last game, and I'm sure he was going to be cheap as can be. And he's not on the team anymore. Huh?
You know what that tells me? Are they going to finally use Velus Jones a little bit more?
Maybe.
I think that's what it tells me. I
think that's. I'm giving away a YouTube nugget. It's not very often that I do this, but for the I hope y'all will come and subscribe and enjoy, or not. I hope you'll subscribe, number one, but I also hope that you'll look into getting a membership if you're not already. But we're going to be digging in quite a bit into figuring out, as silly as it sounds, this could be a very good edge that you possibly get when you look at guys like Smith-Marseille was being used in some really interesting packages before. Like he was getting a lot of end arounds and stuff like that. So like there's definitely some opportunity there that goes somewhere else. He was on for a third of the snaps. He was on for a third of the pass plays. And it's something you got to be interested in when you see a guy like that not on the team anymore. It's going to go to someone else.
He also was the guy who fumbled against the Vikings and lost in that game. Whatever. It's not one guy that loses you any game, I guess, but he did fumble at the end of that Vikings game when they were driving down the field, and unfortunately didn't win that game. And I have to listen to Tony talk about the 5-1 Vikings. So it's great. I'm very glad that he's off the field, because I was very sick when they won that game, because they shouldn't have won that game. The Bears should have come back and won that game. But I digress. I'm with you, Falik. So they didn't bring anyone up from the practice squad? Like they
Well, we don't know. I have to study a little further, but right now from the last game you had obviously Mooney was playing a ton. and then you had Pettis and ESB playing a lot, and then you had
played
these
a
two.
lot. Pettis
Yeah,
played a lot. Yeah.
And then you had Smith Marseille and Velas Jones as your other two guys getting run at the wide receiver position. I'm sure they brought up somebody. I haven't looked into it, to be honest, yet. But I just noticed that little nugget as I was watching, is that you have a guy that got 25 snaps that's no longer on the team. So something is going to change. It's not like the offense changes when they get rid of a guy. The offense is going to be similar. They're just going to find a new person to fill in that gap.
Yeah. Is it Miles? Miles in the chat says Harry active, maybe.
Okay.
They got N'Keal Harry. So
yeah,
God, they got N'Keal Harry and he's $200 and he's terrible, but maybe he's active for this game. He plays.
Isaiah Coulter is on their active roster as well, it looks like. Okay. So they have 6 on their active roster. Isaiah Coulter, former Houston Texan for a couple days, N'Keal Harry, and then the other 4 that we brought up. So I would assume that they're going to make one inactive. So we got to keep an eye on that, as one of these wide receivers will probably be inactive as well.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, teams got to stop putting rookies back there getting punts. Forget about getting the guy who's most athletic to house a punt. Get the guy who's going to catch the damn ball or do the right thing. Like, come on. Sky Moore muffed a terrible one. Like, there were a few muffs, actually. I can't remember the other game where it was a big play that changed with it. But stop throwing rookies back there. Get your veterans back there. Get the surest hands back there, and just worry about catching the damn ball or getting out of the way and telling everyone else to get out of the way. Like, it's very simple. Just catch it or get out of the way. Stop sending these dudes like rookies. Get them out of the punt return. It drives me nuts when my team's getting the ball back and they muff it and the team gets the ball at like the 15. It drives me absolutely insane.
I got to watch it in close up. I got to watch Robert Woods and Nyheim Hines doing punt returns, and it made me feel so good that we actually weren't going to see any, if we should, fumbles or any issues with punt returns in that game. Like, I couldn't agree with you more, JSU. It's a critical piece that these coaches just aren't considering as the third facet of football, is not focused on enough to make sure you have a good punt returner on the field, or you have a guy that can block on the sidelines, stuff like that.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. But all right, let's talk a little bit about these plays at the top. You got Stevenson, who's the highest priced guy. You actually got both running backs from both teams. You got David Montgomery and Stevenson, 2 highest price on DraftKings, followed by Justin Fields, Mac Jones, the 2 quarterbacks. And then you got Harris, who's a little cheaper at 8.4. What are we doing here with these top studs, Tambo? Is this a game where you kind of just want to spend up for your captain because you think you're going to find cheap plays that are going to get run? Or how are you going about attacking the top spot?
I think it's early still, but I'm definitely looking at that. That's something I consider on every slate. If there's a cheap guy that I like that can make it all work, but my big thing is that I said you always see it where you've got the cheap guy that everyone goes to, and then we all start stacking the same thing in. So it's like, man, I don't know. I don't really want to have those types of lineups. I'd rather try and mix and match some of these guys we talked about down low. You talked about Velas, you talked about Harry. There's other guys like St. Brown for them. So you got guys that you can mix down below, but I like going up top. I think right now it looks like Mac Jones, Jacoby Myers, some of those guys, maybe Fields. I don't know. Like I said, I'll have to see how it shakes out. Mooney, another guy, but I'm definitely interested in that. I was wondering more so your guys' take on, so it's the same in flex versus the top. The price changes 1.5x, but Montgomery versus Fields tonight. How do you guys think that's going to shake out from an ownership perspective? And then how do you think it's going to, shape out? Who do you think actually is going to show up here? Because that's just a plug and play. And in any lineup, your 10-6 or whatever it is, Montgomery can be 10-4 Fields. So any thoughts on that, JSU?
Well, I think Fields will be a little higher owned. I do. But I think both will get ownership. As of right now, if you made me pick hey, I can only play one of them, I'd probably play Fields. That's just the way I look at it personally. I will say, though, something in my head, it keeps just bringing me back to Bill Belichick. I feel like these are the quarterbacks he loves to play, the young, the run first, like he schemes, he's going to scheme well, and he's going to make Justin Fields uncomfortable. He's going to do the best job possible to put him in situations where he is uncomfortable and has to make plays from that pocket and force him to beat him as that quarterback, I think is the key with someone like Justin Fields. And I think Bill's going to do that, which could hurt his rushing upside maybe a little bit. Now, Justin Fields can always still break one, you know what I mean? A broken play, guys fall down, he takes off. Like it'll happen, but I do think it's going to be some tough sledding. My wonder is this going to be a slate where like the defenses and kickers are like very popular? Like, I don't want to play a defense if it's going to be like 40% owned. Like I did that one slate and I was kicking myself the whole. I forget what it was. It was like a week or two ago.
The only thing
game. That's what it was. Dallas.
The thing I'll say is the Patriots are very expensive, at least on defense. They're 5,600, which at least makes it a little nice. They're still projected for high ownership, but I do think the kickers are going to be high owned naturally because the defenses aren't. Which I think that if we as a site are able to figure out who is going to get those snaps for Chicago's wide receivers, I think that there's a potential edge on that when you look at that, and you can get down really low at the 1K range and pick between Velas and N'Keal Harry and who knows, Isaiah Coulter,
the problem with the Bears though, Falik, is like, for me, when I watch the Bears, they're just one of those offenses that they just stall out constantly. Like they get their drives going, they stall out. That's perfect for kickers though. It's literally perfect. Now on the other side, the Bears' red zone defense is terrible, and I think the Patriots are going to be able to convert. So honestly, like in ways, I think the Bears kicker might be a little bit of a better play overall than the Patriots kicker in some ways, just because I think the Patriots, when they get down there, they're going to finish more than likely.
I know that we talk about it a lot on the shows. Big T says it a lot. JSU, I know you do as well, but let the projections run and see what happens in regards to these kickers and defensive players. Don't force them in one way because of a script, especially like the Patriots at 5,600 is a very heavy price tag to swallow when you're looking at them. I'm not sure I'd be able to do it. But we'll see.
I think the Patriots, I'll note quick, I think the Patriots will be 30%. Even at that price, there's enough guys up top that people don't care about that you can make a story for. Like, you know, your Myers can be Devontae Parker. Someone could sell themselves on that, things like that. So I think there's options that you can get there. And also don't forget, it's been this way all year in Showdown. Last night, 4-2, 5-1s. Those were what were up there. What caused the finish of the game? That's what'll be fresh in people's mind. Miami's D. And so Patriots D here is definitely going to pick up steam. It looks like already I'm seeing 20 to 25 in most places, but and our guy Simon got us in the chat. We love chatting with the chat here. Someone said, is there a promo code? I said, yeah, promo code. We're already the cheapest and we win the most, but Simon hooked you up. RPS Heater 25. We love everybody. We're just having fun with it. But I do say that all the time because in all truthfulness, that is what it is. We have one price for all sports. It's everything. You get it all. Right now, there's MLB playoffs going on. People are shipping NBA. We've got NFL, of course. We've got other stuff. Golf is still going on. There's lots of MMA just happened. You name it across the board, but you get all those sports for one price. You're not getting an email every month like, oh, next sport around the corner. Here we go. So it is really a good price, especially if you're playing, you know, even $20 to $30 a night. That adds up over the run of a month to get in on a membership, get in with the community in the Discord, and get access to everything that you can possibly see on the site. So yeah, hop in, RPS Heater 25. He gave it out, but I like to have some fun with the JSU sometimes. We are cheap and we give out a lot of great winners.
Yeah, we definitely do. And we are the cheapest. That's just the way it goes. You know, we try and say it as much as possible because we hear it sometimes and we're like, hey, like we are literally the bottom when it comes to that from a price standpoint. And we're giving out winners constantly. And we do the free stuff just so you guys can see it. Like we want you guys to see it. We do all our members shipping and stuff like that. We want you guys to see it. It's a really good community. We want more of you guys to be a part of it. And we want to keep giving you guys the information to help you guys be successful in DFS. Also to learn DFS, also to learn. That's one of the reasons we do this show, is more from a strategy learning perspective. I will say, though, I do really like my guy Spencer Smith in the chat, says, JSU, congrats on your UFC win. All right, but wait a second, Spencer. I'm not Makhachev or Islam or whatever his name is. I'm Khabib. All right, I'm the teacher now. Now I need a little brother. I need my little brother to be like Islam or something like that. I can't be two people. I can't be Khabib and Islam. That doesn't work. But I
don't
do
even
love
got
that.
the full beard right now yet. You got to grow that back out. It's wintertime now, man. You're going to get cold up there. You got to get that beard rolling again.
Tambo, don't worry. You know I go on stretches where I just grow it out for whatever reason. So it'll happen for sure. But a last thing I'll say on the showdown, we can wrap it up. But I personally think, this is just my early thoughts, but I'm not going to play either Patriots running back in the captain spot. I'm going to play both of them on the same team, I think is going to be one of my strategies. I think they will split it. I think the red zone defense for the Bears is very bad. And when the Patriots get in there, I think they're just going to pound them. And I think both these guys end up splitting, and honestly splitting the production in ways where the winning play, like these guys aren't on the captain winner because they take a little away from each other, but they are both on the winning lineup. So that's going to be one of my takes, is I like Damian Harris and Stevenson together in the same build, not in the captain though.
Spicy.
Woo.
That's how we'll finish this show. Anything else, boys? I mean, Tambo won 100K in NBA, never wants to talk about it, but Tambo, you got any NBA winners for the people as we leave? I mean, what's up? We got NBA tonight too.
I gave my exact secret out last week, and someone found it was in the chat. But I mean, AP and Glaucoma our guy Glock do the heat maps, and it was all right in there. It happened to be a 2-game slate, so it couldn't have got any easier. You take that shit, you plug it into the optimizer, you let it spit out some stuff, get a little unique with what you know from DFS, what you learned from these shows, some game theory stuff like that mixed in. Maybe that's the best advice I could give, is you can apply that stuff. But that's the whole point. It was just happened to be me on that given night. The night before, it was our guy Sweet Boy shipping the 888. The night before, it was Big T shipping the whole slate himself. The same night I won, it was our boy Locks shipping over on DraftKings. Like, there's just everything is there, but NBA is not my sport. I told it on the Wednesday show last week. I love hosting the show. I stay in the mix and like watching it, and it's fun. But I count on you guys like JSU up to lock. Tell me some crazy information about the rotations and stuff, which is basically the most important stuff that you need to apply. What?
That's gonna be Kevin's job today.
Well, we got Chart Man here with us too, but that's my point. Is we have the best team, no doubt.
I'll give away one more freebie for the crew today for this YouTube show. First of all, JSU, myself, and DC. Hopefully, I will be. I'm sure I will be. We'll be on the show tonight up to lock.
I won't be there because I'll be at the game. But,
that's right.
Mangone will be taking my place.
Oh, you didn't even. I'm gonna have to call in sick now.
Poor Mangone. Poor Mangone. Everyone's dropping elbows on him.
I'm kidding, but one little giveaway in case I'm not on the show is if Mike Conley is out, you better have a lot of Colin Sexton tonight. You better have a whole lot of Colin Sexton.
I got to take on that. I definitely got to take on that. I will say too, two things about the NBA, because if you watched the Utah game last night, Utah, New Orleans, there was two things I took away. One, Walker Kessler should have to be forced to sit down after Devontae Graham straight up blocks you in front of your face at the rim. You can't get blocked by Devontae Graham. He may be 6 foot tall. Like that's awful. Walker Kessler, he needs to be rested tonight. He needs to take the night off. He needs to go sit home, find a girl, do something, because hoops, you can't get blocked by a 6 foot dude under the rim, man. You're like 7'2".
He's going to be so good, though.
Zion Williams already got hurt, and he got hurt because he tried to showboat. It was his fault. He should have dunked the ball with two hands on a fast break like a man. Instead, he put the ball in one hand, and Jordan Clarkson pulled his ass down by blocking that ball. He had the whole ball in his hand and just pulled him down and fell on his back hard and his hip. So hopefully he's okay. He couldn't finish the game, which is unfortunate. I hope he's fine. But my man, just two hands. No one can jump with you. Like the 6'2" guard can't jump with you. Just two hands, dunk the ball. Why are we doing in-game? Everyone wants to do these crazy dunks. Like, just finish. You're worried about getting hurt anyways. It's crazy to me, some of these guys. But that's all I got to say. I love NBA. I could talk about it all day. But Tambo, final thoughts as my dog's breaking stuff.
No, man, enjoy the game tonight for you. Always fun hopping on with you guys. Love going through this stuff. I love doing the show. It's the best one for reviewing it, going back, learning from it, trying to get better for next week. So I'm still waiting for my big classic slate NFL week, but the NBA win was a nice help for the season. So we'll keep it going over here at RPS. Stick around for the show later with Brick, with our guy JT, and of course, Big T. I'm definitely gonna be watching that. So stick around for that. Subscribe, hit the like button if you haven't already, and we'll see you guys next time.
I don't even think in NBA 2K, Devontae Graham would block Walker Kessler under the rim. I'm just saying it, Spencer. I'm just saying it. That's all I got to do. Kevin, finish us up here, buddy. Any final takes?
No, looking forward to today. We got another run through of games, and next week we'll be through 3 games of the World Series. Hopefully the Astros up 3-0. So looking forward to it. And Halloween as well. It'll be Halloween slate. So can't wait for that. And I hope
Kevin's going to dress up like a candy corn and do this show next Monday. So stay tuned for that.
Just like today.
For me, JSU, Toe Tag and Tambo and KFALIK. Guys, stay tuned. 3 p.m. Eastern time. Big T, JT Hayes, and our special guest, Brick, is coming on. Talk some Showdown winners for you guys. Good luck, Simon. Wrap us up here.